So today I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health and my counselling experience. So I'm going to go through why I decided to get counselling, how I found a counsellor, and my counselling experience. So I like to think of my brain as a little bit like a car. So it's driving along, and eventually it's going to run out of petrol and we're going to need to fill it up. And I think there's a couple of ways you can do that. One is self-care, so you can treat yourself to whatever you want and just take care of you and just have some downtime, or do some meditation. That's great. I always think of meditation as like, oh, no, but it's not. It's actually quite good, and I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. And number two is to sort out a counsellor, and that's what I did. So if you wanted a more in-depth reason of why I wanted to go and see a counsellor, then I will link my mental health blog post below. It explains about it all in there. So I sought a counsellor in 2015 because basically my relationship with my boyfriend was a little bit up and down, and it just wasn't working, and it wasn't down to him because he's a lovely guy, he was great, and I knew it was down to me. I knew there was just something not quite right. There's loads of reasons behind why, having a chronic condition like CF is one of them, and I just thought I needed to seek out professional help. I decided to see a counsellor after watching a YouTube video. Actually, another YouTuber, she did a Q&A on her channel, and someone said something like, what do you do if you're really unhappy and all of this sort of stuff, and she was like, go and see a counsellor. It's what I did. As soon as she said that, I was like, that's what I need to do. Now I know that you can go through the NHS and get the whole counselling thing for free, but I was a little bit embarrassed, I guess, at the time. I thought that if I went to my GP, then somehow my hospital was going to find out, and then I'd have all of these questions, and then my parents would find out and I'd have all of these questions, and I wasn't prepared to be in that position. So instead I googled it. I googled counsellors near me, and the counselling directory popped up, and you can search for a counsellor however close to where you live. And the great thing about that is that there was like a little picture next to every name, and a description of what kind of counselling that they did. So like CBT, depression, anxiety, all of these sorts there's loads of different topics that people cover. So it was really great to see who might be able to fit in with what I needed. I found a lady and I emailed her, and we set up a time and a date, and I was very fortunate that my boyfriend, he dropped me off outside and he waited in the car for an hour, bless him. Anyway, I went in, and after an hour of mumbling to the floor and not looking at her, it didn't go well. I thought, I came out trying to be hopeful and be like, oh yeah, it was good, it was fine, it just takes time, blah blah blah. But there didn't feel like a connection there. So I decided not to go back to her. I didn't want to go and see anyone else after that, because I was like, if I go and see someone else, then I'm going to have to explain my whole life story all over again, and I don't really want to do that. And then a couple of weeks went by, and things in my brain just wasn't going right. I'd contacted a couple of other counsellors during that time, and a couple came back to me and said, oh, could you give me a ring just to arrange a date? And you know what I'm like with phoning people. I was like, nope, goodbye. But when I came out of work one day and I felt so angry and disappointed with myself, I was so upset, I was like, you know what? I'm going to phone this lady. I'm going to book an appointment, because this is unacceptable, Kate. You need to get your brain sorted. So I phoned her. And that's how you know that I was in a time of desperate need, because I would never normally phone anyone. So I booked an appointment with her, and a completely different counsellor to my first one. And what I really liked about this counsellor was she gave the first session for free. And this is what I recommend if you're going to go private. Find someone who's going to do the first session for free, because the first counsellor I went to, I had to pay 40 quid for an hour, and then I didn't want to go back and see her because I didn't feel like we connected. So I not only wasted my time, but I wasted a bit of money as well. So yeah, the first session was for free with this new counsellor, and we connected, we got on really well. Even though, again, I was a mumbling mess and I didn't want to look at her and it was really difficult, I felt a little bit better with this counsellor. So That's how I got into counselling. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently you don't have to go to your GP anymore and get a referral from them to seek counselling. You can do it online. I didn't know that. You can refer yourself. I think all you have to do is like fill in a form or something. I haven't done it. I'll leave a link below if you wanted to go and do that. But the only thing with going through the NHS is, yes, it is free, but you can't choose who is going to help you and your brain. You can't choose what kind of counselling or therapy that they do. You can't choose how far away it is from you, like distance wise. So that's why I decided to go for a private counsellor. For a part-time dog walker, it cost a lot of money and I got through a lot of my savings. But it's okay. Counselling isn't like you do it a couple of times and then suddenly, you're zooming 100 miles per hour down the motorway. Back to that car analogy again. Because counselling takes time. Your brain takes time to unpack all of like the little things in your brain and take them out, look at them and analyse them, and then repack them and either put them back in the box for good or just throw it in the bin. My counsellor said to me that we're going to have to go through the bad in order to get to the good. 5-6 months into counselling, I got really down. Things didn't go good for me. And then eventually it started to pick up again. I did start at a low and then it kind of got worse, but then it got a lot better. It's not just like it helps you get better, but you also kind of pick up a few techniques. Like a lot of things I learned in counselling, I still apply to everyday situations. When my brain jumps to a conclusion, I can sit back and I go, well, hang on a second, brain. Why do we think that that's going to happen? Or why do we think like that? What I'm trying to say is counselling really helped me to challenge my brain and challenge my thoughts. So one of the reasons I wanted to sit down with a counsellor was because they're professional listeners and they don't judge you for anything. You can tell them whatever and they won't judge you for that. And that was something that was really important to me. And that's one of the reasons why I really love counsellors, because obviously they're not going to go and gossip to their mates or anything because it's all 100% confidential. During my counselling, we did something called a GAD-7 test, General Anxiety Disorder 7. Don't know why it's 7. The score was really high. So she said, well, I recommend go to your GP, say that you did this GAD-7 and they might be able to help you in some way. So I went and saw my GP and I said to her, I have been seeing a counsellor and we did a GAD-7 test and the score was whatever. And also I've been getting like heart palpitations quite a lot, which is also linked to anxiety. And she said to me, okay, well, what I suggest we do is we'll book you in for an ECG, we'll get you to have a blood test, and maybe stay off the tea and coffee. Stay off the caffeine. And I was just like, oh, okay, never mind. I was distraught because I didn't feel like I was being taken seriously, and she hadn't heard of a GAD-7 test either. So I was really kind of taken back and upset by that, as you can imagine. And just touching upon like cystic fibrosis, I know my CF clinic, they actually have a psychologist. I never know the difference between psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, counsellor. Is it all the same thing? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I know my CF clinic has a psychologist who obviously is specialised in CF, but the only thing with that is, it's over an hour's drive to get to my hospital, so it would just be a little bit difficult to do for me personally. But if you live near your hospital, then maybe it's worth having a chat. So was counselling worth all of that money in the end? 100%. Like, I wouldn't be where I am today without it. My brain would still be, out of fuel. So nowadays, like when I'm having a bad mental health day, I take it easy on myself. I'm like, okay, it's cool. We're not going to push ourselves to do anything today, and just relax. Just not think about all of the stuff that you need to do. Just going to relax for today. And I find that really helps to know when your brain needs that. And if you do, find a counsellor and you sit down with them and you don't think it's working out, you don't have to go back there. find someone else. There's so many others out there who can help you. I will leave a link to that online directory if anyone wants to go and check that out. And you know what, if you can't find a counsellor, confide in a trusted friend or a family member, because if you trust them enough to talk to them, then it's probably worth it, you know. There's a website called Headspace, or it's an app on your phone if you have a phone. Everyone has a phone, Kate. Yeah, it's called Headspace, and you do have to pay for the full experience of it, but I know there is like a trial session which is free. But it's like a meditation app, I guess. And there's loads of stuff on there. There's a whole load of different sections for different things. So for example, there's mindful eating, there's managing anxiety, there's stress, there's sleep, there's pregnancy, there's coping with cancer, there's pain management. I mean, that's just one section. Then there's like sadness and grief and regret and anger. And then you've got self-esteem, relationship, and there's like so many on here. I really recommend it if anyone is just, you know, thinking of keeping on top of their mental health. Then that is one excellent way of doing it, because Headspace is great. But like I say, you do have to pay for that. Growing up, I always thought that, you know, it's much more important to keep on top of your physical health than your mental health, because I never really heard of all of this mental health stuff before when I was younger. Obviously, because cystic fibrosis is a very physical condition, I always thought that keeping on top of that was the most important thing, but it's actually a balance of the two. And you know, when I was growing up, my outlook on the future was non-existent pretty much, and I just kept pushing it away. But now, you know, after counselling and after helping out my brain, I now feel optimistic about the future. Like I said, I feel like the brain's a little bit like a car. You're driving along, you're gonna need a little bit of a booster, you're gonna need a little bit of fueling up, you know, topping up every now and again. That's okay, that's fine. And I was quite embarrassed to begin with about seeing a counsellor. But now I realise that there's nothing to be embarrassed about, because if there's something that's affecting me, then there is no reason to be ashamed or embarrassed about that. So to sum it up, I would 100% recommend seeing a counsellor. If you feel like you need help, then I will leave a link below to the online directory and to other resources. And I also recommend doing self-care stuff or mindfulness or meditation, like using sources like Headspace or similar. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've just been rambling a lot, haven't I? I've just kind of been like, don't know what that was. Maybe I should make a song out of that, do a remix. Please let me know if you have gone through counselling, or if you've had an experience maybe with the NHS or something like that. Please let me know down below, or message me on any of my socials. They are all linked below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna, because I'm making videos every single Wednesday, and I will see you in the next one. I've run out of words. That's not good, is it? My brain's not there. Hello, anyone in? It's weird, isn't it? I'm talking about my brain, but my brain's doing the talking. That's weird, isn't it? I never thought of it like that.